Hi, good to see you again. So today is Wednesday for me, and my husband goes to work today. So down here, going to finish 10 and probably do 11 to get those updated for you for the microeconomics course. So yeah, it's funny when a daughter's doing Zoom and you're trying to do Zoom, that the internet at your house slows down and you realize all the things that use your internet that you don't realize are using your internet, and you turn those off. So learn from my experience. If you're having slow internet issues, turn off a bunch of the stuff that is using your internet. So anyway, and I'm here in the thriving metropolis of Kalamazoo, literally less than a mile from a Comcast station. So that tells you a little bit of something. Um, that said, I may not be able to get your videos uploaded during the day. I may start staying up through the evening, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. The internet will be a little bit better and a little bit easier to get on. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Chapter 10, Objective 3, Why Private Solutions to Externalities Don't Always Work. So let me go ahead and just click a few things over here. Okay, and minimize this. Now let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, there we go. All right. So in this lesson, we're going to take a look at these externalities, and we're going to really talk a little bit about textbook land here and why some of these economic theorists really are actually living in textbook land. So private solutions to externalities. Here what we're saying is that, hey, everyone should do what they can do to solve problems of externalities, and they should kind of do it on their own. So basically, what we're saying is that if you're having an issue with someone else's behavior, that you're supposed to go to that person, knock on their door and say, "Excuse me, would you please refrain from X, Y, or Z?" I'm hearing my dogs bark outside in the background, and if my neighbor came over, knocked on the door and said, "Could you put your dogs in?" I'm supposed to say, "Well, of course I will." And I'll let my dogs in, and solutions right there. However, in this day and age, that doesn't help, does it? And many times people will not, it's my right to have a dog, even if my dog barks too much or those kinds of things. So these private solutions don't always work, especially in our day and age. So in looking at this, we can't always solve these problems by ourselves. And so we look to the authorities. So if a neighbor's barking dog and you've tried the nice way, the southern way to go and try to solve these problems, what actually ends up happening is you call the authorities. And what economists say was those authorities could probably be spending their time much better somewhere else. They could be arresting criminals that are going to break into your home and things like that, as opposed to putting out skirmishes between private individuals. But again, in this day and age, I think that's kind of how we do things, is we look to the authorities to either pass noise ordinances or things like that. And we don't, left up to our own devices, we wouldn't just simply do the right thing. This is why, again, the governor shutting down bars and um, shutting down restaurants and these kind of things, because we're not staying home. If I got time, I want to go out. I don't want to stay home. And so we kind of have this order that has to be imposed on us from higher authorities or from command kind of control. Okay, so let me step back into sharing my screen with you. Okay, so we're going to, one of the things that's presented in this chapter is the Coase theorem. And here's the idea is Coase believed that we should solve these problems on our own. Now, Coase lived in the late 19th century. So, can you really solve your problems on your own? And so, again, in this day and age, I don't think that we can necessarily do this. But I want to look through an example which I think explains this. So there's a 3-portion kind of thing that we're going to use here. Let me back up just 1 second. I want to go here. Yeah. All right. So let me annotate and do some text. The first thing is we're going to take a look at the first step of trying to apply the Coase theorem is, what does the law say? Okay, we want to start there. So who has the legal right? The second thing we do is kind of look at what is the cost and benefit to the parties. Okay, so if the legal right says you can do it and you have a greater benefit that you place on that, then you should be allowed to go ahead and do it, no harm, no foul. But if the law says you can't do it and you have a greater benefit, then we get into compensation from the party who has the greater benefit to the party that is giving up their right. I think this will become clear as we move into this particular example. Okay. So Dick owns a dog named Spot, Beagle, nice little dog there. If you've ever seen beagles, you know they bark at literally everything. So here's our negative externality is that Spot's barking disturbs Jane, who's Dick's neighbor. And what we want to have happen is to maximize both Dick's and Jane's well-being. So if Dick values the dog more than Jane values her peace and quiet, the dog gets to stay. All right. So let's take a look at our first scenario. Dick has the right to keep Spot. That is the law part of this. Okay. So Dick has the right under the law to keep Spot. However, now we do the second prong of the test. How much does Dick value Spot? Dick only values Spot $500. Okay. Whereas Jane values her peace and quiet at an amount of $800. So in this particular instance, Dick has the legal right. He's giving up that right because he values Spot less than Jane values her peace and quiet. Therefore, the socially efficient outcome here would be, yeah, Spot goes bye-bye. But because Dick is giving up his legal right, there has to be some compensation which takes place. And so we see that compensation here. So Dick is going to pay, Jane's going to pay Dick between $501 and $799. We just picked $600 arbitrarily to get rid of Spot. So the compensation means that the one giving up their right more than the benefit that they place on the good or service, in this case it's Spot, but less than the cost to the other party. Okay, so that's why I say between 501 and 800. So we kind of look at these. 501 to 799 would be how much Jane would have to pay. In this case, we say 600. Okay. Let me go ahead and clear those and we'll take a look at another example. Okay. Second example, Dick has the right to keep Spot. Okay, so Dick has the legal right to keep Spot. So we're going to go ahead and say, okay, there's our legal right. This time, Dick loves his dog. I mean, seriously, my dogs are priceless. So, okay, so the benefit here, Dick loves Spot $1,000 worth, whereas Jane only values her peace and quiet $800. So, because Dick has the legal right to have the dog, take a quick second, decide what you think is going to happen here. So basically, the socially efficient outcome is to see Spot stay. Spot stays. Notice there's no compensation here because the legal right is on Dick's side. Now, we're saying that Dick doesn't have the legal right to have a dog. Okay, so the legal right is on Jane's peace and quiet. In this instance, Dick values Spot 800 and Jane values her peace and quiet at 500. So, what's going to happen in this situation? Okay, give me a second. I'm going to erase all my annotations here. So, Dick gets to keep Spot, but Dick has to pay Jane between $501 and $799 to put up with Spot's barking. Okay. So there's many reasons why this doesn't always work. Because again, can you imagine going over to your neighbor because I have a diesel tractor here on the farm, and they're smelling the diesel and it's upsetting them in some way. So there are really three reasons. And the first reason is that there are many times high transaction costs. What we mean by that is there might be many, many parties that are involved in this, not just two. And so that becomes really difficult to get everybody to agree, and B, how much do we compensate in some of these kinds of things? Again, the bargaining breaks down normally because of stubbornness. People tend to be stubborn. And the third reason is a large number of interested parties. Again, that coordination can be quite difficult and quite costly. Okay, that's the end of chapter 10. And so thank you. And we've wound up chapter 10 now. And I'll be back and we'll start talking about chapter 11 when you're ready. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a good day. Thanks. Hi, honey.